Hi, and welcome to the Literary Sipper. This is Amber Beatty Hill, your host, and today we're going to be talking about creativity. Why does it even matter? I mean, isn't that what this entire creative project I'm attempting is about? Why does it even matter? Why do we need to take time to make things, to think about art, to shout into the void, I matter? And as women, we've had a hard time figuring out why taking time to pursue art even should be part of our day. Especially if you're a mother. Any parent really. Couldn't our time be best put to use in the service of others? Is what we're sort of taught is the underlining idea of parenthood, that your time is not your own, that your time and energy and experience needs to be channeled into this new being that you brought into this world. And we go through those motions very obviously, especially when our bodies don't quite belong to us, when we are in literal service to another being's livelihood, their livinghood. And it takes a long time to separate from that. But I think that this is a question that goes beyond motherhood and womanhood, and it is about personhood. If you know that you need to make a certain amount of money, support yourself or others in your lives in whatever way possible, and the art that you make isn't financially lucrative, then why bother? And that's kind of the question. Why bother at all? Even if that thing, singing, playing music, making pots, taking photographs, maybe all of it, is something that you have always loved to do and have always found joy. When you look through it, when you look at art through a capitalistic lens, that it must be monetized in order to have meaning, then you lose the part of it that is more connected to soul learning and starts to then be in service to competition, in service of the pursuit of perfectionism, in service of your ego. And that's a very different thing than art for art's sake, or art because it feeds your imagination, or it nourishes you, or it makes the time that you have on this planet more meaningful, inspiring, imaginative. All of those things. We feel not quite present when we were doing tasks that have no end, right? That to-do list has no end. The laundry is the laundry is the laundry. It's coming every day. Meals have to be made, bills have to be paid. And there's no end to that. And what do we sacrifice in service to this never-ending list of duties? We sacrifice the most powerful part of ourselves. And sometimes we can't even put it in the schedule. We can't even find the room to make an hour or 10 minutes to put in to our schedule. This matters to me. Sketching matters to me. Writing songs matters to me. Singing matters to me. But we will move heaven and earth for that schedule to be in service of other people, to oblige another person's schedule, whether that's your children or your boss, even a friend who calls. We will find time to do that. And we will also seek out things that give us that hit of dopamine very easily, like our phones or a video game or binge watch a television show, because it's easier somehow than facing a project that might not be going well, or a beginner's mind because you're starting off again. Maybe you picked up an instrument after a long time and it just doesn't sound as good as it used to. Or maybe you're looking at a draft of an old piece of writing and realizing you have a lot more to do on it than you thought. And wouldn't it just be easier to do something else? We give over our creative energy to other people so easily. We even give it over to our bosses really easily. We come up with creative solutions at work, or we are expected to think about things in different ways, or even create visuals or graphics that are interesting or new, or videos for work. I mean, our work is very much in that vein these days for consumption from others. We think about sound bites and social media managers and all of these jobs that didn't exist, 10 years ago now are asking from those very same people to use that creative energy for another person's benefit. And often in lieu of their own creative pursuits, because at the end of the day, creative work takes a lot of brain power. And when you come home, you might not feel like using that brain power to feed yourself. But I'm here to ask you to do it anyway, to find that time for yourself anyway, because it does matter. There have been so many scientific studies recently. I mean, I read this crazy statistic that the first brain map did not happen until the 1990s. So we're only 30 years into having a full map of the brain and understanding how it works and where creativity gets lit up and where it doesn't. But there have been a couple of studies that I wanted to point to. And one of them came out of Nature magazine, and it's this idea of creative anxiety, that creatives have a lot of anxiety. And why do they? And there's two reasons that they point to specifically that are interesting to me. One is you have creative anxiety when you're not creating, and you tend to avoid situations that would allow you to be creative because of fear of perfectionism or fear of, fear in general, doubt, angst, all of it. And so we want to avoid those things as an animal, right? We don't want to do things that are scary. But by avoiding them, we then never develop the skills, the creative abilities that we need to develop to reap the benefits of that creative enterprise. So you end up in this cycle of anxiety for not creating leads to not creating, which leads to not developing, which leads to the fear around creating, and onward and onward. And there's also was another study where they were looking at the brain. And the idea is that the brain is by nature a creative organ. And when it is not being used in that way, when it is not being used to actually make something, create something, look at something, it will find other ways to be creative. And a lot of time, that's the storytelling that goes on in your mind. Those anxious stories you tell yourself over and over again are actually your brain telling you, I don't have enough to do, and I need to make this stuff up so that you propel yourself forward. But we get so inundated by these stories and paralyzed by these stories that we don't move forward. And so we end up in these cycles of creative anxiety. We tell ourselves that we no longer should be doing this art thing, this creative thing, because it's a waste of time and energy. Because brain work is hard. And it really burns more calories. And as animals, we don't want to expend that kind of energy if we don't have to. But you have to expend some of that energy and get a hold of that monkey mind in order to reap the benefits of the art that you're pursuing, to feel accomplishment, to be in flow state, to be in collaborative state with other people. And so what can you do about this? How do you change your perspective of creativity when it feels like drudgery, when it feels useless, when it feels juvenile? And one solution that I propose is to elevate your creativity to the level of self-care, to the level of food, exercise, sun, water, nature, to elevate it in that way. Sharon Salzberg the amazing meditation teacher, says, you have to develop a mind so full of love that it resembles space. And I love this image because I think if you asked anyone who pursues the arts why they do it, there is a liminal sense of love and space that goes into every word of a poem, every line of melody, every point that they make is coming from this connection to the universe that's larger than they are, than we all are, and must be expressed through them. It's the universe speaking through us. But we live in this society where we continually see self-care as something you have to seek out. You have to go to the gym. You have to go to a spa. You have to look to others' therapy. You have to look outside of yourself to care for yourself. And I think if you use creativity as self-care, it can serve you and it can matter to you, and therefore you matter. It matters and you matter. But if you keep looking outside of yourself, then that thing that you're pursuing is the thing that matters. And it's not your inner sense of self-reliance and self-awareness. Creativity can lead to avoidance if you don't allow yourself to develop. And this denial of self is the opposite of what an artist needs to thrive, and therefore needs to be the first lesson you learn. When I say the word affirmation to you, what do you think? Do you roll your eyes? Do you think of Stuart Smalley from SNL? Gosh darn it, people like me. And what if I said to you that you should repeat the words I matter or art matters to yourself in the mirror? Would you be able to do it today? Would you be able to do it for a week? How about for a month? How long would it take for you to say those 4 words, I matter, art matters, for you to truly internalize that lesson? Art matters because it allows people to share their stories and to expand their horizons and to make good days better. It's simple, but it matters. And you matter. I'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to The Literary Sipper. I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something new. If you did, please subscribe and leave a rating and review if you're feeling especially generous. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep putting your voice in the world. It's waiting for you.